I don't know if you just saw the news, but average U.S. household debt just hit 152,000. That's mortgages, cars, cards, student loans. But the national debt just hit 37 trillion. It's all going up. Ask yourself this: when the system hiccups, who bails you out? It's not the Fed, not the politicians, and that's why I own gold. Gold doesn't need a CEO, doesn't need missed earnings, it doesn't freeze your account on a Friday at 4:59. While they print, gold just sits there doing what it's done for thousands of years. Store value. If you're done playing musical chairs with your savings, get something real in your hand. That's why you should try our good friends Kirk Elliott Precious Metals today. Goldwithjustin.com.
We're talking about what matters most to you in West Michigan. Join the conversation now at 616-774-2424. That's 616-774-2424. It's West Michigan Live with Justin Barclay on Wood Radio.
Well, the sun is shining for now. Anyway, another gorgeous day. What are we going to get up to 71? Yesterday was a warm one. Clouds moving in and then some rain. But enjoy the sun while it's here. And then looks like tomorrow's going to be nice. We'll get into the details of that. The forecast for election season heating up as we've got some big news. Yesterday, we had one for the Republican Party race stepping out. We'll talk about that coming up. And one in the Democrat Party. Well, Jocelyn Benson, holy smokes. Things are surely getting interesting there.
News, weather, and traffic.
She's in a bit of hot water herself.
Of the day. We're talking about what matters most in West Michigan and beyond. This is the Big Three. Now, today's Big Three.
The stories that matter most, we'll be talking about these around the water cooler, the dinner table, no matter where you are. Powered by our good friends at Heartland Home Mortgage. Dave Galloway and the team wanted to help you buy, refi, home equity line of credit. They can take care of all three like they've done for us and so many other people that listen to this program. And we've each saved buku bucks, as they say. HHMlending.com website. Reach out to Dave and the team, see how they can help you at HHMlending.com.
Number one.
Israel-Lebanon ceasefire has been extended by 3 weeks. President Trump making that announcement. The ceasefire being pushed back a little bit further. 3 more weeks following a second round of peace talks in Washington. Trump expressing hope that no firing occurs during the extension, even as both sides report violations by Hezbollah.
Number two.
Federal government reclassifying marijuana yesterday. The Trump administration, while we were on the air with the big announcement, the reclassification, the DOJ moving to make it at the direction of the president a less dangerous category under federal law. The change easing regulations, opening the door for expanded medical research and oversight on the substance that has helped several that have real medical issues, along with PTSD and some other mental issues as well. The president saying, I want to give these people the right to try.
Number three.
Reasonable common sense, as he made the point he would be early on. Making the government smaller again. That's what House Republicans say they're doing. They're approving the budget $12.3 billion less than the proposal from Democrat Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Speaker Hall saying, look, we don't need to raise taxes. We don't need to raid the rainy day fund. We're going to get this done. Just another example of the massive distinction between what I think conservatives versus the liberal progressive faction Democrat Party wants to do in this state. And I think another reminder of where we're headed in this election season, 2026 here in Michigan, more important than I think even 2024 was for the nation. That's the decision that will be made right here back at home, where we're going to decide what do we want. Not just for ourselves in the short term, but for our children and our grandchildren in the long term. Where does this state go? And what a contrast it is.
Call Justin now at 616-774-2424. That's 616-774-2424. West Michigan Live with Justin Barclay on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
It's a free-for-all Friday. Trying to grab a few phone calls here in just a moment. You can jump on at 616-774-2424, the iHeartRadio app. Punch that little microphone button next to the play button. Rant, rave, comment, complain. Take a number. No, I'm kidding. Get it out there. Let us know. We want to hear from you. We want the feedback. We love it. We're big boys here. We got thick skin, but also we love to play them on the air. It's all thanks to our good friends at MKD Funeral Homes. And Justin at justinbarclay.com is my email. Go directly to the source. Kyle Olson, founder at The Midwesterner, themidwesterner.news, joining us with the latest stories. Another big breaking news week over the last several days. Good morning, Kyle.
Good morning. How are you?
So this story, and we've got to start with this, but it's one of the things that broke earlier this week. That 11 indictments against the Southern Poverty Law Center. So essentially, understand what they were doing is they were telling people we're going to fight racism by funding racism. Apparently, is what they were doing behind the scenes. So they're giving money. And correct me if I'm wrong, but to the very groups that they said they were up against. And now if you hear like folks on the left spin it, and don't, by the way, people, do not be deceived by this, because this is the spin, but this is what they're going to say. So no, we were sending spies in to try to dismantle these organizations. No, they didn't. I mean, you're talking about millions of dollars that went into the, now as the investigation really comes forward, we're going to find out, I think lots of people got money. And you may be even surprised the eyebrows that'll be raised by who actually got money and the money where it came from. I mean, big donors. Maybe some of them knew where it was going, maybe not. Tim Cook from Apple was one of those guys, apparently. And then I read, obviously, George Soros was involved in that. But all along the way, sitting on, apparently, the board at the time, overseeing this, signing off on it, was our Secretary of State, the same woman who wants to oversee her very own election to governor, Democrat Jocelyn Benson. Whew.
Right. There's organizations, I think Al Sharpton is one. I think Jesse Jackson was one. If they actually fix the problem, if there is a problem, then why are they relevant anymore?
Yeah, they go away.
So organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center, they have to perpetuate the problem, because then only then are they relevant to offer a solution. And so basically what this indictment boils down to is they were paying members of the Klan, white supremacist groups, those sorts of things, paying them to basically exist and do the things that they do in order to then go out and fight them. And I think a lot of people, you go back to Charlottesville and that, Unite the Right rally or protest or whatever you want to call that. And I saw a video the other day of a lot of the people that were, shouting all these horrible things. And I thought to myself, these are clear images of these people. Why is there not facial recognition being applied to these people to expose who they are? Well, maybe because whoever, is protecting this doesn't want us to know who they really are, because they're not real people on the right. And so the reason all of this is relevant is because Jocelyn Benson was on the board. She started her career as a, quote, hate crimes investigator at the Southern Poverty Law Center. And again, organizations like that, she has to go, in order to be relevant, in order to keep her job, she has to go out and find hate crimes, because they have to exist in order for the organization to exist. And so she went from being a hate crimes investigator to somehow all of a sudden being the dean at Wayne State University Law College, which was very strange because she was never a professor. And then at that time, she was on the board of the Southern Poverty Law Center. In fact, we're putting a clip out later today where she was talking about that. So her involvement in all of this is very relevant. And then I think if you add on top of that the allegations from the former mayor of Flint, who said that she had serious concerns about election integrity in the city of Flint and how ballots were being handled and machines were being handled. And she went to Jocelyn Benson, and Jocelyn Benson ignored it because she didn't want to feed into right-wing talking points. That's what the mayor said. And then you add on top of that the fact that Jocelyn Benson has been sued by numerous Black employees alleging discrimination, and she has a serious problem. And I'm sure that we have not heard the end of this.
Yeah, you make up a good point here. In fact, Patriot Post girl over on X, Heather Dow's in the chat, and we're showing some of the great memes that she's created around this, and they are fantastic illustrations of all of the hypocrisy throughout the entirety of this. But she mentioned that, and this is all happening as she's being sued that there's racial discrimination happening inside the Secretary of State. Yeah, it's incredible. I'll just add this in here. We saw earlier this week, Republican gubernatorial candidate Perry Johnson, running for governor here, has called on the Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, to really step away from overseeing this election, recuse herself. I don't even know if that's possible because the entire organization is probably filled with her cronies, but at this point. But I do think it makes a very interesting point. At the same time, we see that Michigan is being investigated. In fact, we've got the latest from, I guess this was earlier this week, and the comments on Newsmax.
And you want the ballots from the November 2024 federal election in Wayne County. Talk to us about how Gretchen Whitmer has any legal authority to prevent you from seeing these records, Harmeet.
The idea that anybody like Gretchen Whitmer can talk with a straight face about weaponizing the Department of Justice after the revelations that we've seen out of this Department of Justice in recent weeks is really laughable. But be that as it may, just looking at the logistics here, she sent this letter, the Attorney General of Michigan, a lot of bombast, posturing, and hand waving. But that's a distraction from the fact that she doesn't seem to actually have a client here. It's not clear that she's representing Wayne County. And we have a right to get these records from Wayne County. And our citations in our complaint, our letter complaining about why we need this, include at least three instances of improper voting conduct in that jurisdiction from the 2020 election, as well as alleged improprieties that I think I and other election lawyers identified very clearly in prior elections, including the 2020 election, where in Michigan, observers who are entitled to observe by law were barred from doing so. And so we intend to get these records, and we intend to get to the bottom of what's going on with these sloppy record keeping and inconsistent procedures in these states. Because
it's not a bug, it's the feature. This is exactly what they're meant to do, to cover their tracks on this.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there's nothing to hide, provide the records. Because they're ultimately public records. They're not trying to, the DOJ, as far as I know, is not trying to get into the machines and, understand the algorithms and all of that stuff. They just want the paper ballots. They want to make sure that they want envelopes, they want signatures. They're trying to verify the election and verify that Wayne County is following the proper procedures. I don't, if they're doing that, I don't understand what the problem is.
Well, again,
because
don't want to give the Republicans any talking points. Right.
Well, then you're disenfranchising a whole lot of people, and it doesn't matter if they're Democrats or Democrat or Republican voters. People are being disenfranchised, and their votes, legal citizens' votes, are not counting.
Absolutely.
So they should get to the bottom of it.
Kyle Olson, founder at the Midwestern, the Midwesterner.news. The race for governor here is changing. Yesterday we saw the landscape that Tom Leonard, a big advocate for some of these townships in the fight against some of the data centers, is bowing out yesterday. He made that big announcement. The landscape, the field is changing.
Yeah, so Tom dropped out. He's been polling in the low single digits. So I think in terms of, how does it shake up the race? I don't know that it really does all that much. Candidates people like to bemoan money in politics, but the reality is you have to raise money in order to reach the normal people who are not obsessed with politics every day. And I remember somebody told me during the 2022 cycle, you could go to every party function, Lincoln Day dinners, rallies, all of that sort of stuff, and you're reaching 1.5% of the electorate. So The only way to reach the rest of it is TV ads, mailers, text messages, all of those sorts of things. And then, of course, you've got people that, they pay attention to the election maybe 2 days before.
Right.
So you've got to have money. And I think a lot of these candidates, Tom included, we're finding it's hard to raise money for a variety of reasons, which we don't need to get into.
Yeah, that could be a whole series itself, I think.
Yes. But so we're just hitting a reality where you got Perry Johnson, who clearly is going to spend whatever it takes to win, and he's got deep pockets, and he's not out having to, ask people for money.
Yeah.
You got John James, who, got millions of dollars, and then others. So it wasn't, to me, it was not a total surprise. But I give Tom credit. He was focusing on issues. I talked to him more than once about data centers. And he was focusing on issues and the issues that actually are affecting, real world Michiganders.
Maybe some will take a little page from that book. First, before we let you go, some good news. Make the government smaller again. It's the headline at the Midwesterner right now, the Midwesterner.news. House Republicans approving a budget $12.3 billion less than Whitmer's proposal. Hall saying, the Speaker of the House, we don't need to raise taxes. We don't need to raid the rainy day fund. The adults look like back in the room. This is good news.
It's incredible. So the House Republicans passed a budget that is $75.8 billion, which is a lot of money. But contrast that with the 88.1, which was a record budget that Gretchen Whitmer proposed. And so basically the way the process works is the governor proposes a budget, and typically depending on party, the other party will just sort of ignore that and do their own thing. And so the House Republicans passed a budget that is over $12 billion less, which is major. The Senate, of course, will probably go more along with Whitmer. Will they end up somewhere in the middle? I don't know. This is going to play out over the next several months. But I think it was a positive. It was a step in the right direction that the House Republicans followed through and actually delivered cuts.
So good news. We'll stay on top of it and keep you updated. Speaking of updates, don't just bookmark the Midwesterner, the Midwesterner.news. Make sure you sign up for the updates so that you get them as they come out. Kyle, always a pleasure. You have a great weekend, my friend.
Thanks.
You got it. God bless. Kyle Olson, founder at the Midwesterner, the Midwesterner.news. Back after this. And man, we're just getting things fired up today. It is a free-for-all Friday, so we'll give you a chance to weigh in too. Coming up.
Robin Kaufman. It's a Midwesterner.news original story. Some Michigan candidates for governor weighing in on data centers at a forum, others a no-show. The Michigan Press Association hosting the event. Several Republican candidates, but only one Democrat shows up. Sheriff Chris Swanson, the only Democrat at the forum. Former Michigan House Speaker Tom Leonard bows out of the governor's race, saying he's not willing to run a negative campaign. And he says, sadly, the system rewards sound bites over substance, theater over seriousness, and personal attacks over real policy debate. And Republicans here in Michigan looking to make the government smaller again. They approve a budget $12 billion less than Governor Whitmer's proposal. Speaker Hall saying, we don't need to raise taxes. We don't need to raid the rainy day fund. For these stories and more, visit The Midwesterner at themidwesterner.news.
Look, it's Jake from our store in Kenosha.
Welcome in, folks. Watching a behind-the-scenes live stream today. We got the folks over on the VIP on Locals this morning. Just $9 a month, by the way, if you want to join in and help support what we're doing here. You get all kinds of extras and goodies. Locals first, Locals exclusives. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much with us in the VIP. Who do we have here? Mendo Mark. Patriot Dean, Panda, good to see you. Gritter is in the house. I think I saw Andrew in here earlier today. All right, let me say good morning to Julianne over on Rumble, Gary, TK, Jen Lynn, as I try to fight off a sneeze here. Sneebor. Shalechi? I know I probably butchered that name. I apologize. Kelly, good to see you. PJ, and so many others. If you haven't done it yet, click share. Whether you're watching Facebook, Twitter, X, We'll Get Our Locals, YouTube, because we want to set you up with something really cool. In fact, if you go to the Justin store, justinbarclay.com/store, you'll see all kinds of goodies inside, T-shirts, mugs, hoodies, all kinds of things. And certainly you can support a program if you'd like. And we definitely appreciate your willingness to do so. However, you could win one today. Free 99 for the low price of free 99. Well, you could pick one. All you have to do is click share on the platform that you want to. And honestly, if you want to help us break the algorithm, even if you're not watching on Facebook, go on over to your Facebook profile, open that up, and share it out. Help us break the algorithm, cut through the noise, get the truth, logic, and common sense out to the world. Appreciate you, bookers, today. Heather, Lady Vu over on X, Joanne, Bunny, good to see you. Jason's in the house, Sherry, Judy, and Brenda, and so many others. Gosh, we really just appreciate all of the support each and every day, whether you support our sponsors, our partners, you support with your donations via Locals and the VIP, or you're just watching and sharing. Leave a comment. Let us know where you're watching from today. Smash the like button. That lets the algorithm know that you're loving what you're listening to. All right, back in a moment. Stand by, folks. Here we go.
Visit Autolaw.com.
That's Autolaw.com.
Fastest hour in radio. Flying by, folks. We got so much to get to yet today. In fact, there's some audio coming out this morning. Secretary of War, Hegseth, talking about how good of a job they've done taking out the enemy. In fact, Iran at this point, because we hear a lot of questions about it. I heard they were decimated. This answers that question we had at the end of the show yesterday.
The IRGC specifically has been reduced to a gang of pirates with a flag. They cloak their aggression in slogans, but the world now sees them for what they are, criminals on the high seas.
I told you this yesterday because somebody asked a question at the end. I thought it was a really good question at the end of the show. They called in and asked, hey, we hear the military's decimated. Well, how are they still able to do? Well, it's more of that's a great way to explain it, really. Pirate operation at this point. But that doesn't mean that they're out of the purview of the U.S. military and how they can handle them strategically. So, we've got more from that update coming up. And also, he's running for Senate here in Michigan. Rep Joe Fox joins us coming up next.
Breaking down the story. It's West Michigan Live with Justin Barkley on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
It's Steve Kelly from Wood Radio for.
All right, folks, stand by. I'll answer your questions in just a moment. Every time you share, Justin, a liberal cries. Jason, that's funny. I don't mean to make people cry. Sometimes the truth is sort of hard to handle. I will say it's always my goal to sort of, if I can, give the truth with grace. You got to have the both at the same time. That's how Jesus does it. And if you approach things that way, I think we'll have a better shot at reaching people. However, I am not above a little comical relief. So I like to laugh and have a good time too. That is that's certainly part of what we're doing. All right, so let me check in. It looks like Rep Joe Fox is hanging out with us right now. Let me see if I can test his line. Let's see here. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. It's good to be here with you, Justin.
Fantastic. Appreciate you taking the time to be here. We know you got a big event coming up you want to talk about today. We'll talk about that. There are some other issues, stories of the day we might want to cover as well. Is anything that's top of your mind that's worrying?
Well, I can talk very well about budget, about data centers, things that we have been through in the last couple of days, especially with our House budget proposal. So Absolutely. Those are things that are on my mind.
Yeah, that's going to be critical. In fact, we were just talking about some of those things, and very much part of the conversation happening already. So we'll get into that and talk about those data centers too. So, folks, event you're going to want to know about coming up here in just a moment. Rep Joe Fox with us, good friend. Appreciate you. Hang on, sir. You look good. You sound good. You're raring to go. We'll be back with you in just a second. Okay,
thank you.
You got it. Okay, folks. I think there is a way. I'll deal with that here in just a second, folks. Stand by. Let me give you a little bit more from the Secretary of War while we wait. This was a press conference earlier this morning, a news conference at the Department of War.
They don't control anything. They're acting like pirates, acting like terrorists. They're the ones who lay indiscriminate mines, who shoot at random ships, who killed 45,000 of their own people, innocent protesters in the course of weeks. Their own people. They are the bad actors. The vessels that the Iranians seized in recent days, a couple of them, they're not American ships. They're not Israeli ships. They're just random ships that drove where they drove their little speedboats up to and shot at those ships with AK-47s. Anyone with a speedboat, a gun, and the wrong intentions can do that. They know that we, the United States of America, control the flow of global shipping. And we know that they know. Their real navy is at the bottom of the Arabian Gulf.
So that's why people have wondered and asked that question. I do think it's a genuine and a good question, because the problem is you get so confused by the way the media reports this. Well, if they're decimated, and the media says, well, everything Trump says is a lie. Well, that's not true. But if they're decimated, how are they able to do this? The kind of boats these guys are using right now are little small sort of run fast sort of boats. A lot of the drug dealers, those people that were getting popped from Venezuela, et cetera, those are the kind of the boats that these guys were using. And same scenario. Well, you've seen how easy it was for us to deal with those particular vessels. In that situation, So understand these will be dealt with as well. But I thought it was a really interesting question, or an answer rather to the question that we had just the other day about, hey, well, what's the story here? So, all right, let's get an update on the blockade coming back. We're going to do data centers. We'll talk about the event coming up here with Rep. Joe Fox. He'll be met with a few of the folks there in Montcalm County talking about data centers and more. Stand by, folks. Some familiar faces, I believe you'll find as well. All right, here we go. Back on the air.
On your favorite station.
Thanks, guys. Love you.
I love you guys.
Have a good day. Try the TalkBack mic now. Just open the free iHeartRadio app.
Hey, it's Glenn Beck, and you're listening to West Michigan Live with our good friend, Justin Barclay. The Glenn Beck program coming up at 10 on Wood Radio.
Back after it, folks. How about General Dan Raisin Kane with an update on the blockade from earlier this morning, that news conference, the Secretary of War in the Department of War at the Pentagon.
First, as I mentioned, U.S. Central Command continues to maintain a strict blockade on all the ports. We're enforcing the blockade across the board against any ship of any nationality that is transiting to or from an Iranian port or territory. We're closely tracking vessels of interest headed towards Iran and those moving away from Iran that were outside the blockade area when this blockade was ordered. And as everyone saw this past weekend, we're prepared and postured to intercept them. As of this morning, 34 ships have met the U.S. blockade and made the wise choice to turn around. One ship did not, and that ship was the motor vessel Tuska.
We saw
over several hours this past Sunday.
I'll belabor it and go into the whole thing, but they shot right into the engine room, took that thing out of business, and boarded on top and came on in down the ropes from the helicopters, boarded that thing, and that was probably won't do that again. Although not the best decisions being made coming out of some of these folks in some of these scenarios and situations. The story out of the Midwesterner this morning we just talked about with Kyle Olson is front and center today with State Rep Joe Fox, who is going to comment on this. Make the government smaller again. House Republicans approving that budget, $12.3 billion less than Whitmer's proposal. And what happens next in the Senate? Well, he'd like to be part of the Senate as well because he's running for state Senate as we speak right now. And he'll talk about those processes and how that'll all play out. Rep, appreciate you being here with us today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's great to be here with you, Justin, and it's a beautiful day outside.
Oh, it's certainly
so
is.
just want to highlight, first of all, that you've been mentioning already, we're having a gathering in Montcalm County in Greenville, and it's scheduled for May 18, and there we're going to be focusing on data centers. And we've got special guests, Tammy Clark from Stand Up Michigan, her friend Kristen Megan Kelly. We've got Paula Kultreiter, who has become quite an activist in relation to data centers. And a very good friend of mine, Representative Jim DeSena, who's from Southeast Michigan, where they are already wrestling with data centers in Saline. So that's going to be at Flo's Pizzeria, and starting at 5:30 on that May 18 date, and hoping that lots of people can make it there.
We'll put a pin in that, come back to it, and make sure we put up some details on the website for later on. But you're in a unique position right now, as we've just seen this. I think it's good news. What happens next in the Senate will be the next piece, as Kyle was just mentioning earlier in the show. But this passing this budget seems like the adults are back in the room. The Speaker of the House saying we don't need to raise taxes. We don't need to raid the rainy day fund. We can get this thing done and get it together. It was good to see this. I think a lot of folks applauded.
Well, the reality is, just putting clear numbers on it, our proposed budget in the House is $75.8 billion. back in 22 through 23, 24, 25, it was north or around 86 billion. So you're looking at $10 billion less. And just backing up the truck, we were at less than 60 billion in 2019. In 2006, we were only at 41.28 billion. We have been running up this budget for many years, and we need to do everything we can to cut it.
Well, especially now that there's no COVID, free COVID money.
Right.
In,
Right. Exactly.
To think that Whitmer was able to run through all of that money that we had, the surplus and whatnot, it's unthinkable. That's why I say I think it's good to see that it looks like the adults are back in the room in this situation. Rep. Joe Fox with us right now. Let's talk, if we can, let's switch gears to the data centers, because here's another conversation that, I think people are trying to wrestle with right now here in Michigan. On one hand, we hear President Trump say, hey, we need these data centers. And one might understand that to fight national security, to fight China, that we might need some data centers. But how they're done and where they go, ultimately, I believe people need to have the ability to have that say-so, particularly in their own backyard. And that's what the root of this is right now.
Yeah. You know what, the old saying is follow the money. And the question is where is the money coming from? Who is profiting? We are wrestling against big tech. Another big issue we're wrestling against is we typically call it totalitarianism, the whole idea of big brother, top-down mentality, big government. We are wrestling over the issue again of state versus local control. And too many times the big guns come in. They try to do NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, with local officials, and this affects the whole picture. And then you get further. I'm still on the big issues. We have a Michigan Public Service Commission made up of unelected, appointed bureaucrats who, again, fight, stand up for the idea that they are in control. Bottom line for me are the people of Western Michigan, of all of Michigan, their living situations, their health, their sense of well-being, their property values, the use of agricultural property. We don't have infinite amounts of good farmland for data centers, for solar fields, for windmills to take over. And, we need to ask first the people question, not the money question, not the power question. And so those are my starting points in talking about data centers.
Now, I know folks will be talking about this at some great length at your event coming up, Flo's Pizzeria, Greenville, Michigan, May 18th. It's a Monday night at 5:30. And if folks want more information, we'll put that up online, but you can RSVP as well. I know that you expect us to be one of the places where the conversation is, I'm sure, active and also vital on all of this, because you got Kristen, Megan, Kelly there. You got Paula, who's joined this fight, Tammy Clark, who we've had both of those two on, along with Rep. Jim DeSanta, that's going to dig into this a little bit further. I know people want answers.
Yeah, I think that we've got some real solutions, moving forward. And the biggest thing that is needed, bottom line, is a moratorium. We're racing down the track, or we're going down the hill with our noses too far over our skis, whatever analogy you want to use. And we need to back up the truck and very simply ask what is best for the local situation, and how do we avoid the control, the totalitarianism, the tyranny, and even the lawfare. It seems that every time something goes against, the big tech, the big government mentality, it immediately jumps to lawfare.
We have seen that each and every time. Unfortunately, it's very similar with the Goshen Green Charter Township scenario as well. These things are unfortunately becoming all too common these days. Hey, Rep, if folks, Rep Joe Fox on with us right now, if folks want to maybe go follow you online, keep up with the details, this event as you campaign kickoff, and you continue to advocate for the folks who are standing in their communities, wanting the answers on these data center issues and more. Where can folks find you online? Where's the best place for them to go?
You can both go to votejosephfox.com. As you've mentioned already, I'm running for the 33rd Senate seat. And also you can go to Facebook, which is Joseph Fox for State Senator. Both of those are really good locations. And there you can take a good look. Yeah, you've got it up there right now.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. And,
So
when it comes to these data centers, Justin, we're dealing with at least an 80-20 issue, if not a 90-10 issue. And this is one issue where both the right and the left are uniting. I've been to Dorr Township, to Gaines Township, to Solon Township, and various meetings they've had. And it's people from across the spectrum who are standing up and speaking against, asking questions about, calling for moratorium on these data centers. There are just too many unintended consequences hanging out there.
Well, this is a conversation that will continue to be had. Joe Fox, Rep running for Senate right now, elect Joseph Fox. You go to votejosephfox.com for more info. We appreciate it. We'll have you back on, have a little more in-depth conversation next time. Thank you for taking the time today. We appreciate it.
Yep, and we'll look forward to seeing a lot of people on May 18 in Greenville.
You got
Thank you very much.
You got it. Thank you, sir. God bless.
Yep.
More coming up
Blessings
next.
to you.
Good news happening right here in our own backyard. We'll get to that as well. And an after show, we're fired up. The fastest hour on radio is just flying by. We'll get to the show after this.
Here are your headlines from the Midwesterner this Friday, April 24th. I'm Robin Hoffman. It's a Midwesterner.news original story. Republicans here in Michigan are looking to make the government smaller again. They approve a budget more than $12 billion less than Democrat Governor Whitmer's proposal. Speaker Hall saying, "We don't need to raise taxes. We don't need to raid the rainy day fund." In other news, some Michigan candidates for governor weighing in on data centers at a forum, others a no-show. The Michigan Press Association hosting this event. Several Republican candidates show up, but only one Democrat does, and that is Sheriff Chris Swanson, who's the only Dem at the forum. And Michigan House Speaker Tom Leonard bowing out of the governor's race, saying he's not willing to run a negative campaign, and he says sadly the system rewards sound bites over substance, theater over seriousness, and personal attacks over real policy debate. For these stories and more, visit The Midwesterner at themidwesterner.news.
All right, folks, rolling right along. The fastest hour in radio is flying on by. Making energy affordable again. Planned curbs rapid rate increases, out of control utility costs. Perry Johnson's making energy affordable again. We need it. It's out of control. They're out of control, particularly in, and I don't know if you've been paying attention to this one, but they just got their rate increase. Consumers just got their rate increase. And now they've asked for more. They've asked for more. Holy smokes. Right after they got that rate increase, the latest one, they said, we want more. We need more. You guys, they can't stop feeding the beast. Interesting conversation. So anyway, we'll continue with that as well. Stand by, folks.
Now, as usual, there's a lot of false information out there. I'll say this, every ship that the U.S. believes meets our criteria, either Iranian ships or to and from Iranian ports, has been turned around. As of this morning, 34 total. Non-Iranian vessels are allowed to transit, and many have, including overnight. Not only is the blockade growing, in fact, a second aircraft carrier will join the blockade in just a few days, but this growing blockade is also gone global.
More in just moments, folks. Got to jump back on the air. Stand by. Here we go.
Crisis. At Good 360, we deliver hope when families need it most, providing essentials like clothing, hygiene items, and household goods. Put help within reach. Learn more at good360.org.
Set Wood Radio is a preset now on our iHeartRadio app. Powered by Michigan Auto Law. Auto accident attorneys. Visit autolaw.com.
That's autolaw.com.
Men, you matter. That's right. We got good news coming up here in just a minute. But first, you matter, man. We need you. We need you in the fight. We need you to be the best husbands, the best fathers, the best showing up in your calling on a daily basis. And the folks at Mentality want to help. You know, if you've been feeling like you're just not where you used to be, may not be your fault, could be your testosterone levels. They're going to do your lab work. They're going to make sure that they dial you in and get you right back to where you need to be. Why? Because we need you in the fight each and every day. Go to lowtusa.com to find out more. lowtusa.com to help take your life back from Mentality. $25 million in scholarships, aviation, and particularly that sector, the FAA, space education, the ambassador bringing Dreams Launch Tour and AI Tech to Grand Rapids. Jameel Larkin's with us right now. He's an FAA ambassador and founder of the Aviation Start Initiative, which lands here in Grand Rapids today. In fact, the Dream Launch Tour underway. Larkin's going to be talking to students at the West Michigan Aviation Academy, showing them everything that they need to know and maybe blowing their minds in some ways about the new Aviation Start AI platform, a tech-driven initiative designed to connect aspiring aviators with a staggering $25 million in available scholarships, removing financial barriers to entering the cockpit. Very cool stuff. Jameel, welcome in. We appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks so much for having me, Justin.
Let's talk about the platform, and I think also most importantly, you know, we've heard recently, you know, just even air traffic controllers. I mean, even in that sector, that they're having a hard time finding the people to do some of these jobs that, you know, keep us safe and keep us in the air, keep us flying and the country moving. And I've heard they've done some unique things like turning to some gamers, some kids who like love to stare at screens all day. That's like a gift, I guess, or a passion that they love. Well, they can help move us around. So they're doing unique things, and this is just an example of it.
Yeah, our industry, aviation as a whole, is desperate to get the next generation involved in aviation. I mean, if you look at some of the stats, one thing that the general public typically doesn't know is almost 83% of all the mechanics that work inside of aviation are scheduled to retire within 9 years. About 50% of all of the commercial pilots will age out within about 14 years. We're desperate to get qualified, motivated people to get into the industry, and we're trying to make it a lot easier than what it was over the past couple of decades.
Yeah, that barrier to entry can be kind of tough. And I think, you know, one of the things I think of when I look at this is just, you know, where do you start? And particularly, you know, in a situation, you know, like I wonder about this, but, you know, like if I'm a kid, I grow up, I want to fly. Like, it's not like I can just, you know, make a call and say, I want to go fly an airplane. You know, this is kind of a tough thing. How do kids get into it?
That is the question that aviationstart.org is hopefully going to answer for a lot of people. You know, with all the huge demand to get into the industry from a workforce standpoint, you just mentioned, you know, it's hard to figure out how to start. Where do you start? So we've compiled basically a pathway list for pilots, mechanics, air traffic controllers, airport operations, to try to be able to help people go from sitting inside of a desk inside the school to even midlife career changers, the actual steps that they need to take to be able to go from wherever they're at in life today to being able to get hired in their dream career inside of the industry.
Yeah, I'll be talking with students a little bit later on today at a really unique place that we have here in West Michigan out at the airport, West Michigan Aviation Academy. It's like nothing else really happening throughout the country. It's really cool, and what you're bringing, the innovation behind it too. I think students are going to love this. Aviationstart.org is where you can find out more about Jamel and what they're up to and help support. What's one last, maybe as a parent or a grandparent who's listening to this and says, "I love to get my kids involved." What would you recommend?
To get started, it's typically between $80,000 to $120,000 to be able to get all of the ratings and the necessary licenses and certifications to become a professional pilot. That makes it out of reach for a lot of families out there today. So one of the things that we're doing is connecting people with all of the different aviation outreach programs, as well as the scholarships that you mentioned. With $25 million worth of scholarships that's available out there. And unfortunately, a substantial amount of them go unclaimed every single year just because people aren't aware of them. So we're going to make people have easier access to some of these resources. So no matter what your financial situation is, you can make your dreams in aviation become a reality.
There it is. More good news. Jamel Arkins, thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate you being here with us, and welcome to West Michigan.
Thank you for having me.
You got it. God bless. Have a great trip and safe travels throughout the country as they go talking about this big important issue. We talking about making America great again. What do we do with the future? How do we get folks involved, the kids? How do we make sure that we're building on the infrastructure and all the things? By the way, big news yesterday out of the Oval Office, the president mentioning this. And what about the story about this little boy whose life was changed about with this new drug they've got? Big announcement.
It's absolutely incredible. Regeneron works miracles. He didn't know his name. He couldn't hear me tell him how much I love him. And now with Regeneron and this amazing surgery, he can listen to music and he loves it and he loves to dance and he loves instruments, and I'm so proud of him. He's been so brave through all of this. And now he can hear and he has a bright future ahead of him, and I'm so thankful to everybody on the Regeneron team.
That little boy sort of stole the show yesterday.
That's incredible.
You can see the president sort of as a grandpa.
Even the fake news has to be impressed with this.
That's a very good point. The little boy at one point rolling around on the floor in the Oval Office, and they just kind of stealing the show with the cameras. It was hilarious.
Anybody with a toddler has all been there. We love Travis because that is such a normal reaction for a kid. What is the reaction you're getting from your family and friends? Were you mortified in that moment, or did you think, let Travis be Travis?
Let Travis be Travis. He's so cute. And, he's not a shoes kind of guy.
Took his shoes off and he's rolling around on the floor. How funny. Anyway, more good news. We've got an after show I got to get to. In fact, the latest, just in a big surprise in the January 6th pipe bomber court hearing yesterday. We'll break that down for you in an after show, a show after the show. Never enough time to get to it all, but we do our best. We're back with you Monday. The Glenn Beck program's next. Make it a great one. God bless.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses. We forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever and ever. Amen. Amen.
WOOD Grand Rapids, WOOD FM Muskegon. The news is next on Wood Radio,
an iHeart radio station.
All righty then, folks. We are flying by. I shared a meme yesterday, Jessica said, saying that for Trump's next trick, he's going to make liberals rage against marijuana. It's good. That's good. This is so, it's so true. TDS clouds of minds of so many. Booyah! How are you? Booyah over watching on the tube today. Good to see you. Let me get into the after show. Got to click a few buttons. Don't forget to share. If you haven't done it already, want to give you something cool from inside the Justin store. I'll fill you in on that in just a moment. In the meantime, stand by. Dun, 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 dun. Get ready to strap in. It's going to be a heck of a ride. It's like drinking from a fire hose. Never a dull moment, but yes, you'll hear the stories you won't hear anywhere else, and we appreciate you being here with us for them today. I'm Justin Barclay. The show after the show. That's why they call it the after show. Never a dull moment, never enough time to make sure that we stay up to date with it all, but we're doing it. We're doing our best. Yeah, and man, oh man, we appreciate your help and support because we couldn't do it, any of this stuff, without you. When you share over on Facebook, Twitter, X, Rumble, Getter, Locals, even the podcast program you're listening to, you help break the algorithm, let people know that truth, logic, and common sense exist still. You can help us cut through the noise, and we appreciate that. If you do, we're going to give you something cool from inside the Justin store. Everybody that shares today will get registered for something cool from inside the store, whether it's a t-shirt, a hoodie, a mug. We'll let you pick. Go shopping. In fact, you can go and shop. You can go buy things now. We've got the America 250 shirts coming soon. We've been talking about them for a while. Be launching soon, so keep an eye out for those. But in the meantime, we want to give you something just for hanging out with us, just for watching, just for being a part of it. So please do that now, particularly if you have a Facebook account. Maybe you're not even watching on Facebook. But if you have a Facebook account, you will help us break through the algorithm. They do this weird thing sometimes. And like I said, I'm not really sure why. Sometimes they love us. Sometimes they hate us. This is just the way of Facebook. But if you help us today, you'll help us break through the algorithm, get the word out, share, and spotlight what is happening, of course. I don't know. Something's weird with the screen today. You see this? Ever since we brought, maybe it's this thing. Let me see if I can pull this off. Now they got me in a weird box. You can't make this stuff up. Okay, how about that? Let's give that a shot. See if that works any better. I definitely have lots to get through. One of the biggest stories, I think, has to be the story of the January 6th pipe bomber. They had a big hearing yesterday in court, and some strange things happened. I just put it that way. Some strange things happened. We'll pull the curtain back a little bit for you in just a moment so that you can see what exactly went down and why it's got some folks kind of scratching their heads right now. But first, thanks to Mike Lindell and the folks at MyPillow, mypillow.com/Justin, mystore.com/Justin. Mike wants to help you, and obviously you want to take great advantage of these great deals right now. I mean, you're talking about all kinds of great savings on the MyPillow mattress topper. They've got a sale right now where they are, I think, just $99.99. That's right, $99.99. That's it. That's incredible. And I know, look, you may not need a mattress. Sometimes you think to yourself, okay, it's time for a brand new mattress. Well, you may not need. In fact, you may not need a mattress. You may just in fact need a mattress topper or something that will help you in the meantime until you kick the can down the road just a little bit longer and get what you need. Anyway, Mike wants to help you out with that, whether it's the could possibly be pillows, towels. That's the thing I talked about yesterday. If you never used the MyPillow towels, they're amazing. They're like the best towels you'll ever use. And yes, you'll see for yourself. They actually dry you, which is pretty incredible. So if you want to find out more about any of those things, mypillow.com/Justin or mystore.com/Justin, where you can log on and get all of the information on all of the deals and more. Healthwithjustin.com, Maha Missy, and the episode, the latest update coming your way this weekend. Healthwithjustin.com, down 30 pounds. My wife is down there. We're feeling amazing. And yes, you can join the Maha Mission too. Call 269-964-4044. Go to healthwithjustin.com to find out how you can make America healthy again, starting particularly with yourself, which I believe is where it all starts, right? Right in your own backyard, right in your own home, actually. Okay, let's dig into this story, the January 6th pipe bomb story. The guy they say is responsible for this, and I know some people asked a few questions. I get it. I saw the story. I saw the guy when he came out, and I go, that's the guy who did it? Remember, there was, and I'm going to be careful how I talk about this because there's lawsuits now. There was a story about something, and this seemed much more plausible, I'll tell you, just like in the world that we live in. But there's a story about someone who was working Capitol Police who may have been in on this. And this is the person who actually went and placed the pipe bomb in front of, I think it's called the Congressional Club. This is like where Republicans go to meet. Now, I've actually been there. I went to lunch there one time when I was invited to the State of the Union and had the opportunity to go. I get to go to lunch with the congressman who invited me, Congressman Molinar. Now, what this place is essentially, I'll call it a club. It's private, but it's not like a country club. I mean, it's nice, but it's not like, some lavish, there's no cigar smoke filled back rooms, at least as far as I can tell. It's just people having lunch. And why they do that is if they're going to fundraise or raise money at all, they can't do it in their office. So they have to go across the street and they go to this private place. That's where they do it. All right. So I had lunch there. I will tell you, it was nice. The best thing about it, and they had everything you could think of as far as food-wise. Really good. Got a chance to rub elbows with some of the folks you would recognize, everybody from Thomas Massey at the time to Senator Scott Rick Scott from Florida and a few others. It was good. Best part of it were the cookies. They have, I'll just tell you, inside baseball, they have these cookies and they're so good, like set up on a buffet table. Like when people are leaving, they go and they get cookies and they have these little paper like sacks for them and they'll load, congressmen and whoever else, they'll load them up. They're so good. They're notoriously good. They load them up in these little sacks and they'll take them to back home to the family or take them to the, to the staff or whoever. Somebody can bring you a cookie. I know it's funny, but that's the extent of what that place is. So where this pipe bomb was placed was right outside of that. They called it the GOP headquarters, but that's not what it is. That's a long way for me to tell you what happened. So this is the picture we're seeing. These are the photos, at least, of the pipe bomb itself, the person walking with the backpack, the hoodie, the shoes that person had on, etc. That's where the bomb was placed, at least one of them we know about. So let me, if I can, let me show you what happened yesterday. This is Kara Castronova. She's reporting Mike Lindell's team, Lindell TV, and what went down. It took a sharp turn, the case did yesterday, inside of a courtroom where I think prosecutors thought this was going to be like a one and done sort of thing, that they were going to be able to go in, slam some new charges on the guy, and then, well, we're going to have to talk, probably going to want to talk about how can we, plead this out. And that's not what happened. In fact, the defense did something really interesting. And I think it's telling. Listen to a little bit of her.
Hey everybody, Kara Castronova from Lindell TV here in front of the White House to give you the scoop on what happened yesterday at the alleged pipe bomber status hearing that was in the federal courthouse in Washington, D.C. So to really just summarize it for you, there were 4 new counts that were added to his indictment. So there's a superseding indictment where they're now charging him with interstate transport of explosives, malicious attack to use those explosives, an act of terrorism, and weapons of mass destruction charge, which carries a life sentence. So that was sort of what happened at the beginning. They arraigned him on these new charges, and he pled not guilty. Other things that happened during that arraignment that stood out to me was a real mic drop from the defense when they literally just walked right up to the judge and said, we want to set a trial date. I think that really surprised the prosecution. Their mouths sort of fell open. A lot of the FBI agents and the DOJ that were sitting there watching sort of looked at each other in disbelief when the defense said, we want to get a trial date on the docket. I don't think that they expected that. I think that they added all of these new charges sort of hoping that this young man, Brian Cole Jr., would be scared and plea out. I don't think they expected that at all, and it showed on their faces. So that was another huge moment there when that attorney for Brian Cole Jr. went up to the judge and asked for a trial date to be put on the docket. Another thing that stood out to me was the judge flipping out on the defense attorneys.
All right, that's nothing new, but let me go back to because she'll tell you about the judge here in a second, but let me go back to this. And I think this is important. So what they were attempting to do was probably place new charges on that were so steep that in this case, the defense would just say, well, we got to plead this out. We have to, there's just no way. We can't deal with it. We gotta plead this out. And that didn't happen. In fact, they said, not only do we want to set a date, but this is the right that you have to a speedy trial. They've asked for that, which that I think says a lot. What do they know? And one of the things that they want to do is they want to start to subpoena. This is going to get interesting because once they have this trial date set and the thing is off and running, they want to start to subpoena members of Congress. Oh, okay. Where does this go? Well, I'm telling you, folks. There's something going on here. We just wait. We don't have all the answers to yet, but I think we're about to hear some things.
Judge Ali, this happens often in January 6 cases when it's almost like the judge is part of the prosecution team, literally just started yelling. He went from 0 to 10 out of nowhere on the defense. No one really understood why. He just got angry at something they said and just started reprimanding them, embarrassing them, and yelling at them in court when, in my opinion, they're just trying to defend they're just trying to defend their client who was literally up against the federal government that wants to put him in jail for the rest of his life. And he was yelled at very nastily, to say the least, by Judge Ali. So that was another moment that stood out to me. Something else also that stood out was the defense is asking to subpoena Congress. They want to subpoena congressional records, meaning January 6th committee records, any hearings or information that Congress has on the alleged pipe bomber. Again, I think that surprised the prosecution. I don't think that's something that anybody in the government really wants to come out. They're nervous about that. Obviously, a lot of unresolved things about January 6th. People are still asking so many questions. And the alleged pipe bomber, Brian Cole Jr.'s defense is asking to subpoena Congress. And that's one of the reasons they are asking for a trial date, because you cannot really subpoena Congress without having a trial date on the docket. Another thing that stood out to me is that the defense is possibly going with what they're calling a, quote, alternate perpetrator defense. So that was something that was brought up towards the end of the hearing. And I am making the assumption that that alternate perpetrator would be the Capitol Police officer that some publications have alleged could be the actual pipe bomber, that it's not Brian Cole Jr. So the defense is actually going to go possibly, or at least bring up a quote unquote alternate perpetrator. Something else that stood out was the argument between the.
I'm going to tell you, this is going to be, again, it's in Washington, D.C. You just heard about the judge. It depends on how the jury is going to be swayed by the judge and how everything else is. The judge acting the same way that these judges have during all these January 6th. Remember how bad they were. Terry says it's called calling their bluff. Yeah, I think that's the key. That's the key. Whether or not, and this is going to be, it's hard to call, but whether or not they have the same disdain for this individual, and I don't know that they can, because it's not like this individual is like a MAGA type. It seems like the person they've got here is somebody, at least at the reports we've had previously, said he's, he kind of had autism and he hated both parties. And so I don't know. And I'm not saying the guy didn't do it. I'm not saying he's the guy. I'm just saying, boy, there are a lot of questions around this, and particularly what we've seen come out recently. These are the big scenarios and the questions that are going to get answered.
Prosecution and the defense. The prosecution wants the defense to have to clear anything they submit in motions with the prosecution, which is really something that is unusual. And the prosecution and the defense both acknowledge that it's unusual. That stems from the fact that the defense submitted the fact that a Capitol Police woman failed a lie detector test. And when she was asked the questions, are you the J6 pipe bomber or did you plant those bombs? She failed that test. So that would go back to that alternate perpetrator defense. But the prosecution is saying that that put her life in danger. And moving forward, the defense should have to submit anything to them or clear with them but before they put it into the court docket, which obviously doesn't seem legit to a lot of people because that's just not normal. And also because obviously that sort of interferes with the public's right to know. The public has a right to know this information. This is something that has been established in many courts when the public has a right to know certain facts, like a Capitol Police woman failed a lie detector test. When it comes to who the alleged pipe bomber was, that's something that is of the public interest. So just a lot of interesting things coming out of
Glendale TV. Holy smokes. Again, this is going to, and I don't know, maybe we get the truth on it, maybe we don't, but this is going to be a big piece, I think, of uncovering the puzzle of what has happened. And if you tie this into the Southern Poverty Law Center revelations over the last week or so, I mean, this is, you start to really see how things can line up. And boy, lots of questions still yet unresolved. Jessica says, for those who don't already know, Glenn Beck doesn't own the Blaze anymore. I've heard that he's very disturbed about what the Blaze has done to Steve Baker. I don't have any knowledge on how Glenn feels about any of that. I do know that the fact is that he no longer owns the Blaze. I know Steve, or I know Glenn likes Steve. I don't know what the relationship is now and how any of that. I have no idea, but I will tell you. We ran that story. We reported that the Blazers reporting when it happened, and Steve Baker reported when it happened. And I felt fine reporting that because of the track record. And I know Steve to be a good guy, passionate. So I will say, it was very strange to see how things kind of turned there. Not with what they did, but how. Well, I just leave that because I don't have any. I don't know some lots of, and none of us do unless you're inside covering that. Who owns the Blaze? That's a good question, Brian. And I don't know. Maybe a Google search would reveal that. I know. And I think it might be a little shocking when some people find out, but I will leave it at that. It's because I think I've already caused enough trouble for one day. But if there's anybody who's intrepid that's able to research, you might be able to dig in and find out. Okay. So what happens next? Good question. We'll follow it and the updates as they come. It could be another one of these stories that just gets buried. I don't know. I feel bad watching it go down. Because it's hard to know. We're in another one of these scenarios and this is just where we are right now. Sometimes you can't tell where the truth is, where it ends, and the lie begins. We don't know. And so these days, it kind of puts you on that default position where you think you're being lied to about everything. Now, that's not a great position to be in. I think trust but verify in some cases, although when people tell you who they are, you need to believe that too. Here's a great example. There have been a number of hoaxes in the last week or so where, and this is fascinating, but they've just completely fallen flat. Unless you're inside the leftist Democrat echo chamber, the little bubble. That's the only people this stuff works on anymore. The people that have like straight up Trump derangement syndrome. I would put this latest hoax. We've been watching the Minds and the Straight hoax in the gas. I revealed that for you yesterday. This latest hoax, this reminds me of Trump tried to grab the steering wheel on January 6th and get the limo, the beast, back to the... That's where I put this one. This is the hoax. They've said that Trump tried, if I remember this correctly, Trump wanted to use nuclear weapons on Iran, but General Raising Cane stopped him from doing it. That he told him, no, don't do it. Don't do it. So stupid. First of all, and who was it? It was like this ex-CIA guy that do you remember that? Okay, I think it might have been on MSDNC 13 now or whatever they call. I have no idea. It's hard to even keep up with how irrelevant they are. But what happens is people go on the network. Nobody watches the network, but then people take and they clip like the stupid things that people say on that network and share them over on social media, and then everybody finds out about it. It's not that people are actually watching these shows or these networks. Same with the podcast, by the way. Some of these wild podcasts, people aren't actually watching them. They're just watching clips. And I don't know, maybe people are doing that with me too, but like, it's wild. I can't tell you. I used to listen to a lot of these guys in the long ones, pause and come back, pause and come back. I can't do that anymore. I don't know what happened, but I just get everything I need to know from the clips, I guess. Anyway, this is the CIA guy saying Trump wanted to nuke, apparently, Iran.
You got to try to deal with it. And then there was a report out.
There was a report out. Yeah, well, who reported? Where was there a source at all?
They had an emergency meeting Saturday night. And apparently, one report coming out of that meeting at the White House is that Trump wanted to use the nuclear codes, and General Dan Kane stood up and said no. He invoked his privilege as the head of the military, so to speak. It was apparently quite a blow up. There are pictures of Kane coming out of that meeting with his head down to the ground. So there's some very, very bizarre things going on in D.C.
Okay. By the way, Dina finding ChatGPT's answer has completely failed her. ChatGPT saying that the Blaze has not been sold. I'm surprised that there isn't something out there that says it. Glenn has mentioned this. Now, Glenn owns. You know what? I'm not going to get into all that. It just neither here nor there. I'm just going to tell you he doesn't own it anymore. Okay. And then you'll have to either trust me or not. I mean, I would ask you could try and verify this in some other ways. But I'll just leave it at that. Here is President Trump. Being asked a stupid question from just a reporter that I think is the girl from a Jim Acosta. And now this is what I read. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not in the habit of staying up to date on who Jim Acosta is dating or any of these people at all. But listen to what is asked yesterday. You remember we just watched that video at the end of the show, this touching moment, this child's rolling around the floor, and this little boy is able to hear now, and this medicine, really it's like a miraculous thing, and they're celebrating the president's having this big announcement. And then we get questions like this to ask. It's just insanity.
Would you use a nuclear weapon against Iran? You posted on Truth Social.
No.
Would you use a nuclear weapon against Iran?
We don't need it. Why do I need it? Why would a stupid question like that be asked? Why would I use a nuclear weapon when we've totally, in a very conventional way, decimated them without it? No, I wouldn't use it. A nuclear weapon should never be allowed to be used by anybody.
Yeah. This woman who asked the question is just apparently, again, they do stuff like this, right? Jim Acosta. By the way, I know it's Jim Acosta's girlfriend. How do I know that? Well, because the White House tweeted it. Just look. Rapid response 47. POTUS to Jim Acosta's girlfriend, Elizabeth Landers, when she asked one of the dumbest questions ever. This is the White House, by the way, tweeting this. If he'd used a nuclear weapon on Iran. Oh, here's Elizabeth Landers. That's who we're talking about. I don't even know who that is. I have no idea. Did she post it? The news broke as we were in the Oval Office this afternoon. I asked the president about these prediction markets bets. Oh, that's another whole nother story. Did you see one of the guys that was involved in she's retweeting this other person, this other reporter saying that she's a great reporter. Golly. Did you see the story about one of the guys that was involved in the raid on Maduro? Put a bet down. He put a 30,000 bet down that Maduro would be captured. Now they're investigating. This is not a good thing to do. Who knows? Who knows what comes out of that? But not bueno. I did see Rep. Anna Paulina Luna saying, "Look, leave the guy alone. Let him off the hook." Was it dumb? Yeah, but like until we start going after Congress members, leave these service members alone. I know. Well, that's an interesting point. Throw the guy in jail. Here's a different perspective, and I think Trump saying, unfortunately, the whole world has become somewhat of a casino.
If he bet against his team, that would be no good, but he bet on his own team. I'll look into it, yeah.
There are also bets that are being placed as well on the Iran conflict, too, and there have been some trackings where people suspect that there's insider trading happening on these prediction markets around the war. Are you concerned?
Well, the whole world, unfortunately, has become somewhat of a casino. And you look at what's going on all over the world, in Europe and every place they're doing these.
Unfortunately, that's interesting.
Betting things. I was never much in favor of it. I don't like it conceptually, but it is what it is. No, I think that I'm not happy with any of that stuff, but they have all these different sites. They have.
All right. It's interesting it's interesting to see that play out. I hopefully we don't see more of it. Hopefully we're not having massive, but I don't know. So legalities, I don't understand the legalities of it all. I don't know if it's illegal or not. I certainly don't think it's wise at all. I just don't know where the law comes down on it. Hey, some good news out of Virginia, and this is something CNN did not want to have to play or admit for folks, but boy, their legal expert, I believe, is the one who had to come out and say that case against the gerrymandering in the Virginia case just the other day, where they went out and said, okay, we had 5 Republicans, 6 Democrat. Now we have 10 Democrat, 1 Republican congressional representatives. That whole thing, apparently, the odds are really good that whole thing is going to be overturned. I know CNN did not want to have to say that, but here they are admitting
After
it.
Virginia became the latest state to redraw its congressional map for partisan benefit, a court there has now blocked the results from being certified. The judge in rural Tazewell County says the language on the ballot was, quote, flagrantly misleading, and accused state lawmakers of not following their own rules.
Democrats could potentially gain up to 4 seats in the House with this new configuration. Virginia Attorney General Jay Jones says he intends to immediately appeal the ruling. Meantime, senior Republicans in Washington are pressuring Florida Governor Ron DeSantis to redraw his state's congressional districts. CNN senior legal analyst Elie Honig is with us now. He's a former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, also a former state and federal prosecutor. Elie, great to see you as always. Do you think this challenge in Virginia has a chance of succeeding?
I do think it has a chance of success. This battle is not over. So if you look at their various challenges here brought by the RNC and other Republican entities.
I just got to stop him there. I do think, oops, that's not what we wanted. We didn't need you to do that, sir. Why did you? This is CNN. Rosie O'Donnell and the few people left that still watches probably spit out their coffee. Mr. Bill over on YouTube found the answer for who owns the Blaze. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, I don't know if Mr. Bill's going to come on Facebook and tell everybody else, but if you do a little more research, Bill, how did you find it? Where did you find the answer? Again, when you find out, I just think it's gonna raise some mind. Okay. Just because I know how everything looks. To prove this further, though, let me just do a quick little search for you at glennbeck.com. Do you see the Blaze anywhere on glennbeck.com? You see it anywhere? No, you see something called The Torch. What's The Torch? Okay. Add that into your stack. Add that into your research. But I don't remember who. I think Jessica was originally the one who mentioned this today, along with the Steve Baker January 6th thing, which, again, I don't have any information or insight or knowledge on any of that stuff other than to tell you the little bit that I do know. Okay. And that's that. So, but I will say that whole thing, I don't know. I don't know what happened. It is possible that Steve got kind of like, a little overextended over his skis there or whatever, and he was passionate about, wanted to break this news, and apparently it wasn't the full story. I don't know. Betting stuff. We were just talking about that real quick. This is hilarious. A guy just made $36,900 on Polymarket, which I guess is another betting website, by walking up to the weather sensor the platform was using, an unguarded thermometer near a Paris airport runway, and pointed a hairdryer at it. Entered with $2,000 at 5 cents, bought yes on temperature targets, heated the sensor, collected his winnings, and ran. The Meteorological Service launched an investigation. The sensor now has a security guy. Oh, my goodness. I almost feel like this got to be AI, this video right here, because it doesn't. Where's his cord at? Is it plugged in? Is it battery operated? I don't know. This seems like AI itself, but apparently. With the highest temperature in Paris, reached blank on that day. And look at how much, if this is the guy, Joe the meteorologist, that's brilliant. That is evil genius, diabolical, like, levels. I don't even know. I mean, the guy deserves every bit of that money if that's the case. That is incredible. I've never seen anything like that. And also, I'm just not smart enough. I guess I'm just not smart enough to think about something like that. That's kind of like a Walter White Breaking Bad sort of guy. Knew his field, knew what he was going to do, decided he was going to do something like this. And he did. He made a big splash and made lots of dough, apparently, in that whole scenario. Big tornado last night. I don't think anybody was killed, thank God, in Oklahoma. They're used to this. Enid, Oklahoma Air Force Base, Vance Air Force Base. An airliner at 30,000 feet. Somebody was there on the wing and was able to capture some of this footage. And we've got more coming out from the tornado yesterday. But this is wild footage. That's insane. You can see a peak, like a sliver of the sky and the horizon in the background, like in the middle of the screen. The rest of the screen is dark. That's because that's a cover from what looks like a funnel cloud or the storm itself. Wow, that is incredible. That footage coming out last night, and there's more. I think we actually have some footage from during the day as well. Here, let me see. Where did that one go? Well, I don't know. I lost it, but man, I just thought that was a crazy piece of footage, piece of video for you. Coming out. Anyway, we've got a big weekend ahead. We've got the Maha Missy segment that'll air this weekend. If you haven't already listened to it or watched it when it happened live, we'll have that drop for you in the podcast over the weekend. I may pop on at some point VIPs. If you haven't joined a VIP yet, just $9 a month. If you sign up for a whole year, you get a month free. Plus, I give you a signed copy of my book. Good news, open encouragement for trying times. Love to send that out to you. Man, oh man. It is it's going to be a good week. I mean, like I said, may pop on little just to say hi for those folks. Got some more VIP content coming your way. Okay. Now, Sean, by the way, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's changed at all. Yeah, absolutely not. As I say, be careful how you walk around some of this stuff, because I want people to understand the truth, and I don't want to add to confusion or any other weird things that are going on. There's plenty of that. There's no shortage of that these days. Hey, we're back Monday. In the meantime, make it a great one. God bless.
I'm Dr. Kirk Elliott, founder of Kirk Elliott Precious Metals. After being in the industry for more than a decade, I knew there was a better way. It's an exciting time to invest in gold and silver with the most significant bull market I've ever seen. But please don't overpay for your stuff. At KEPM, we focus on low-cost bullion only, and we don't charge a commission when you sell. We would love to connect with you, so call our office at 720-605-3900
or go to goldwithjustin.com today. Hey, congratulations to Laura Moss, our winner today in the Sharing is Caring contest. Laura Moss, you are our winner. Send me an email, and I will send you a message, and we'll make sure we get you something cool out of the store at justinbarclay.com/store. T-shirt, hoodie, mug, you name it. Congratulations. Thanks for your support, folks. God bless.